I'm playing cat. I'm actually I too am a child of immigrants from Greece. And, Greece used to be a really nice place to visit. And it hopefully will be again one day. I just hope that people realize that this too can very quickly become a place that's not a good place to live. And I'm concerned, as we all are, about where we're heading. And I'm going to ask you a kind of strange question. With all of your dealings with Democrats in Congress, and in talking to them, hearing what they're saying, what they're doing, do you see any light or glimmer of any of them understanding that this path we're being dragged down is unsustainable? Do any of them see that?
Yes, some of them do. There is a huge split, by the way, within the Democrat Party. And you may not have seen this. But unfortunately, for them, is that the controlling interest is the far left. That is what controls the Democrat Party. The George Soroses, the MoveOn.orgs, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Barack Obamas, they are the controlling interest. And so the dirty little secret out of Washington is when the Democrats say, well, the Republicans are obstructionists, the Republicans are stopping this. We couldn't stop a one-car parade. We just don't have, we were so in the deep minority. Now with 59, now Democrats in the Senate, we have the ability, finally. But the reality is we can slow things down a little bit in the Senate. House we can't. It was moderate Democrats that slowed health care down. They did not have the votes. I mean, think about this. This is an amazing thing. And we yelled and screamed, and the American people, oh, you wouldn't believe, and somebody may have been there, the amount of people that came to Washington that weekend of the vote, it was just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. They did not have the votes in the House to pass the Senate bill Sunday morning. The vote was Sunday night. They didn't have the votes until they broke Bart Stupak. They broke him. And he may not run again. It was so sad to see. And if he hadn't gone over, it was he plus 8 other pro-life Democrats that got broken and got this silly executive order promise, which they know in their heart of hearts is meaningless. If they hadn't done that Sunday morning, late Sunday morning, ironically, Sunday morning, we wouldn't have had that bill passed Sunday night. They passed it by 5 votes. If just 3 of those people hadn't done it, it wouldn't have passed. And so there are conservatives. Remember, there's bipartisan opposition to this bill. Partisan support, bipartisan opposition. Zach Space, they beat and beat and beat, threatened primaries, all kinds of stuff. And he said no. People said no for different reasons, but there are Democrats who said this isn't going to bring insurance. I can give you quotes. It's unbelievable. This isn't going to bring insurance down. This is going to create higher deficits. Anything that Republicans have said, that Democrat leaderships have said is nonsense, there are Democrats who've said it. Because they understand that this is not a bill that's going to do what people think it's going to do. So there is a glimmer of hope. And the more people like you, and this isn't a partisan statement, get engaged more, it's going to have an impact. Because believe it or not, Democrats today, think about this, they control 209 seats that Barack Obama won. It takes 218 to get to a majority. So they won seats that John McCain won. And one of the reasons why they're coming after me is they look at me like, what are you still in Congress for when Barack Obama got 54% of the vote in your district? And so you wouldn't believe the letters, phone calls, visits that I received from people over health care, thinking that I was from Mars for voting no. Even when I told them some of the bad things in the bill, for some people it was, well, the president needs to win. Like, that's not a very good reason to vote for a bill, for the president needing a win. But that is a huge thing here as we go forward in November. Because there were members of Congress who voted for that bill that represent districts that are not liberal districts. And they will lose. They will lose. Oh, I'm sorry. Harvard.
Nancy, now, I'd like to know what your position is on congressional term limits.
Well, in 1992, when I ran for state representative, there was an issue on the ballot for congressional term limits and for state rep term limits, and I publicly supported it. It went to the Supreme Court, went to the federal courts, and it got overturned for the federal level, not for the state level. Within the Congress, Republicans have voted for term limits for leadership and term limits for chairman. So the power in Washington, who's ever in the majority, is the leadership and the chairman. And we believe, and we voted as Republicans, to implement 6-year term limits for those who are in those positions. The Democrats do not have that. So Nancy Pelosi could be Speaker if they're in charge for the next 10 years. But we believe, even though term limits have been found unconstitutional, we believe that internally power should be moved by having term limits of chairman and leadership. And that's an internal rule that we have that can't be challenged.